Inspiring illustrations. Who was Melchizedek? And why is he so important to us? Melchizedek was a wise and powerful king of a land known as Salem, located in the ancient Middle East. He was also a priest of God, as described in Genesis chapter 14, verse 18. The Bible describes a unique encounter between Abraham and Melchizedek after Abram had won a war involving important monarchs of the time. In this encounter, Melchizedek brought bread and wine and blessed Abraham. Melchizedek possessed divine and supernatural characteristics, and his greatness was compared to that of Jesus when God said, "You, Jesus, are an eternal priest, according to the order of Melchizedek." Psalms chapter 110, verse 4. The story of Melchizedek becomes even more impressive when we realize how he was described in the book of Hebrews chapter 7, as man, Melchizedek, without beginning of days or end of life, resembling the Son of God. And in this video, you will understand who Melchizedek was, this enigmatic and mysterious character from the Bible, and why his story is so important to us. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, take this opportunity and subscribe now. Don't forget to activate all notifications and leave your like. Let's start the video. Melchizedek, also known as Melchizedek, has Hebrew origin, meaning first, king of justice. And since he was king of Salem, his name can also be interpreted as king of peace. Melchizedek is a biblical character mentioned in chapter 14 of the book of Genesis. He is described as the king-priest of Salem, a city that many scholars believe to be ancient Jerusalem. Melchizedek is an enigmatic character because little is known about him beyond his brief appearance in the Bible. The story attributes supernatural and divine characteristics to Melchizedek, demonstrating that he was a person of great value who instructed peoples and gave them civilization. He is remembered as a wise and just leader who had a significant impact on his time and interacted with Abraham after his victory at the Battle of Siddim. Chapter 14 of the book of Genesis provides relevant information about this interaction between Abraham and Melchizedek. The biblical text reports that there was a war between several nations and kings, including a coalition of 4 kings led by Chedorlaomer, king of Elam. Abraham, then known as Abram, led his men in a battle against these 4 kings to rescue his nephew Lot, who had been captured. After defeating the 4 kings, Abraham returned victorious and was greeted by Melchizedek, who brought him bread and wine and blessed him. Abraham then gave Melchizedek a tithe of everything he had gained in the battle. To better understand the context of Abraham's story, we will provide a video about his first son, Ishmael. Just watch the video that is now appearing at the top of the screen. There are several theories about the identity of Melchizedek. Some people believe that he was Enoch, while others believe that he was a celestial being or even Christ incarnate. However, these are just speculations and there is no concrete evidence to support them. The best interpretation is that Melchizedek was a Gentile, not a descendant of Abraham, but rather one of Noah's descendants. He had extensive knowledge about the supreme God and, in addition to being king of the city of Salem, he was also a priest of the Most High God, who has power over the earth and its inhabitants. This means that the God whom Melchizedek served as a priest is the creator God of existence, the only true God. Something surprising is that among all the pagan cities where Abraham lived, there was a man who knew God, Melchizedek. He was a priest and instructed his people in the city of Salem, following divine laws. As priest and king, Melchizedek acted as legal representative and mediator between God and his people. He played an important role in his community, helping to maintain the connection between the people and God. According to the Bible, the main function of priests was to act as mediators between God and the people, representing God before the people and the people before God. They were responsible for taking care of the offerings and sacrifices offered by the Israelites, including inspecting animals that would be sacrificed to ensure they were in proper condition. In addition to their religious functions, priests also played an important social role. They were responsible for instructing people in the law, judging certain civil matters and determining the correct sentence in complex criminal cases according to standards of law. Priests also performed some health-related tasks. As a priest, Melchizedek would have performed important functions in the community. In addition, as king of Salem, he would also have exercised political authority over his people. This shows how Melchizedek was an important and influential leader in his time. Another interesting observation is that Melchizedek is mentioned as a priest in the Bible, but his lineage is not given. Usually for someone to become a priest they had to prove they were descended from Levi. However, Melchizedek is mentioned in Bible around 1800 BC, while Levitical priesthood was instituted around 1500 BC during Moses' time. This means that Melchizedek was established as a priest about 300 years before God presented Moses with tablets of law and instructions on priesthood. This interesting information shows how Melchizedek was a unique, enigmatic and mysterious figure in his time. Melchizedek appeared to Abraham and then disappeared without leaving any other information about him at the time Abraham lived. He was mentioned again around 1000 BC, during the time David lived. At that time, David wrote Psalm in chapter 110, verse 4, where God made an oath and promised not to go back. You will be a priest forever, following the order of Melchizedek's priesthood. This promise shows the importance and value of Melchizedek's priesthood in the biblical tradition. Another important point to consider is that, in the encounter between Melchizedek and Abraham, Melchizedek blessed Abraham, saying that blessed be Abraham and also the Most High God, who possesses heaven and earth. When Melchizedek blessed Abraham, he exercised authority. And when Abraham gave Melchizedek a tithe of everything he had conquered, Abraham recognized and submitted to his authority. A fascinating fact is that Melchizedek acted as a mediator between God and Abraham. He blessed Abraham and, in doing so, exercised authority as a priest of the Most High God. Melchizedek is also mentioned in the book of Hebrews, chapter 7. The author of the book makes a detailed interpretation of who Melchizedek was, shedding light on understanding. Melchizedek was king of the city of Salem and priest of the Most High God. When Abraham returned from the battle in which he defeated the kings, Melchizedek went to meet him and blessed him. Abraham then gave Melchizedek a tenth of everything he had taken from his enemies in battle. Melchizedek's name means, King of Justice, and since he was king of Salem it also means, King of Peace. Nothing is known about Melchizedek's father, mother or any ancestor. Nothing is known about his birth or death either. Because he is like the Son of God, he remains a priest forever. This shows the greatness of Melchizedek. Abraham, the patriarch, gave him a tenth of everything he had taken from his enemies in battle. According to Moses' law, Levite priests were obliged to receive from people a tenth of everything. They received from their own countrymen even though they were also descendants of Abraham. However, Melchizedek was not a descendant of Levi but received a tenth of what Abraham had taken in battle and blessed him. Yes, he blessed Abraham himself who had received God's promises. There is no doubt that one who blesses is more important than one who is blessed. In the case of Levite priests, the tenth part is received by men who will one day die. But in the case of Melchizedek, as the Holy Scriptures say, the tenth part was received by someone who remains alive. Therefore when Abraham paid the tenth part, Levi also paid. For Levi had not yet been born and was in the body of his ancestor Abraham when he met Melchizedek. The law that Israel's people received was based on Levite priesthood. If Levite priests' work had been perfect, there would be no need for another kind of priest to appear in order of Melchizedek's priesthood and not Aaron's order. For when priesthood changes, law must also change. And Jesus belonged to another tribe, and no member of that tribe ever served as priest. It is known that Jesus belonged to tribe of Judah, and Moses said nothing about that tribe when speaking about priests. All this becomes clearer because a different priest arose like Melchizedek. He was not made priest by human laws or rules, but became priest by power of life that has no end. The Holy Scriptures say, "You will be a priest forever in order of Melchizedek's priesthood." Thus old rule was annulled because it was weak and useless. Law could not perfect anything, but now God has given us better hope by which we come near Him. In addition, there is God's oath. There was no oath when others became priests. But there was an oath when Jesus became a priest, because God said to him, "The Lord has sworn and will not go back." He said, "You will be a priest forever." Therefore, this difference also makes Jesus the guarantee of a better covenant. There is still another difference: the other priests were many because they died and could not continue their work. But Jesus lives forever, and His priesthood does not pass to anyone. And so He can save people today and always, because He lives forever to ask God on their behalf. That is why Jesus is the great priest we need. He is perfect and without sin or fault. He was separated from sinners and raised above the heavens. He is not like the other high priests and does not need to offer daily sacrifices for His own sins and for the sins of the people. He offered a single sacrifice for sins forever when He offered Himself. The law chooses as high priests men who have weaknesses. But by the promise made with an oath which came after Moses' law, God chooses the Son who became perfect forever. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something new today. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, if you haven't already, to stay up to date with all the content. Also, I recommend watching the video about Abraham's story to better understand the context of his story. God bless. Until next time.